This video is all about small boat safety, habits, essential equipment, the gear that I've used in all my experience from owning several of these boats, ranging from the inflatable type boat that I'm on right now to the traditional 16-20 foot fiberglass warrior boats that you've seen me on in the past. I'm going to go through various gear. A lot of it you may have seen before in other videos, some of it you may not have. This is my experiences. We'll get straight into it because it could save your life. Let's go. So this is a VHF radio. I'll talk a little bit more about this later. Maydays, pan messages, the push to talk function, what channels we use here in the UK. Next up, you can see this here. It's a bit of a nice to have, to be honest, but this is a personal locator beacon. In the event I'm stranded, this is registered to me personally. Costs about £400. I'll put links below. Nothing sponsored in this video, okay guys? This is just gear that I use. This here, pull the tab, press the button, and this alerts the Coast Guard. So if I'm out of range of their VHF, or certainly if you're looking at mobile phone signal, as soon as you disappear off the coast a little bit, that's gone. This is an amazing piece of kit to have. And for someone like me who spends a lot of time out on the water on my own, especially overnight adventures, I always have this bad boy on board. Another piece of essential equipment I wouldn't go out in the water without is a life jacket. This one here, I think is more designed for kayaking, but it has the right buoyancy for my body weight. So I'm 85 kilos. It's measured in newtons, so it will keep me afloat if I fall in. Just dead handy for pockets, etc. Your traditional life jacket like this one has a gas canister inside, and you can either deploy via a lever, or this one has a sensor in it where if you hit the water, it'll deploy it for you. Just a few essential checks to consider. Make sure it is the right newtons. It's measured in newtons. There's a number generally for your size and type, and the gas canisters do expire. A good little thing worth doing when you're doing an annual or biannual check is just to deploy it and then fold it all back in. I do it anyway, it's quite simple to do. Kiddies on the water, this is my 6-year-old daughter's life jacket. Again, it's 100 newtons for her. Make sure it's fully secured, and most life jackets, PFDs, should have a strap that goes underneath you. So if you fall in, it doesn't ride up over you. Now my life jacket does have a whistle on the inside, which you can deploy. Mine's actually an Acme Thunderer type. It's super loud, used in the emergency services, so you know they're good. However, you can get air horns as well. Preference really, and the amount of space you've got to work with. I'm fairly limited on a 4-meter inflatable. Like I say, this video is mostly around small boat safety. Get asked a lot about mobile phones. You know, a lot of paddleboarders, etc., rely on them. Signal isn't great out at sea. You know, the telecoms companies don't have a lot of customers sat out here in the bay, so you tend to lose signal. Fairly handy. Better to have it than not. Something like this is quite useful. Little waterproof pouch, put it in over your neck, because although the latest iPhones, etc., are waterproof, if you drop them in the sea, yeah, they'll be fine until about 3 months down the line, which things start rusting, which I've experienced. Now, first aid kit's often very overlooked. People take something small like this, which has got a few plasters, a little bit of micropore tape or something, maybe a little bit of cleaning fluid. For what the activities I do, my experiences in my employment, I tend to take something a little bit more heavy duty, especially when I've been free diving, beer fishing, etc. I like to carry a bit more. I carry an IFAC, an individual first aid kit, which I've set up myself. First things first, I carry an Israeli bandage. These things are going to stop a serious bleed. I carry Celox hemostatic gauze, which is basically designed in Afghanistan for gunshot wounds, but carry a lot of knives when I'm out free diving. Always a chance you're going to need it. Now, some basic kit as well, just some bandages for basic bleeds. I carry a water gel burns kit in case I get burnt. Quite often I like to have a brew on the water, flashing up the jet boil. A few other little bits of kit that are quite useful as well. I carry a Gen 7 combat application tourniquet. Again, you might think this is overkill, probably is, but that's what I like to carry. And tough cut shears. You never know what you're going to face on the water. I like to be prepared. I'll link what's exactly in my first aid kit. Sometimes I store it in a plastic waterproof box depending on the weather conditions. Other times it's just in this like a little molly pack. Now this here, kill cord. When you're underway, if I pull that out, my engine stops. Simple as. If you don't have these, you fall out the boat for any reason, and it doesn't take much. Certainly on that blue inflatable, which was used to catch the wind at the front, I'd nearly been knocked out that several times. And if you're at full chat and your boat's, you know, doing 20 knots and you come out, and certainly like where I am today, there's a few paddleboarders, etc. over here on the beach line, possibly injure somebody, the boat's going to do a 180 and mow you down, or you're going to get hit by the propeller. Always carry a kill cord, and I always connect it to myself, either my gear like so, or I put it around me hand. If there's more than 2 of you in the boat, it's worthwhile giving a quick safety brief to whoever's on the boat with you and giving them a spare kill cord so that if you go out, they can actually start your engine again. Some outboards, not this one, my mate Macca's one, has a spare kill cord underneath the tiller handle. Also, I've been guilty of this in the past. I lost one of my kill cords and I bought a knockoff one off Amazon and it just didn't fit, so I would buy a genuine one personally. Kill cord on, we're doing about 12 knots. There you go. That probably stopped me there when I pulled it. We got to here. It was quite quick and effective. Start it up again, you just put it back in and she'll fire up again. Other bit of kit to consider is a compass. Obviously it's going to always give you a bearing. There's no electronics in this. You can put a battery in the one, I think this one too, for night operations, but this is quite luminous. I've used it at night. But the other day, actually yesterday, the sea mist rolled right in and I wouldn't have been able to see the beach from where I am right now. So yes, I have electronics. Yes, I have GPS on my phone, but this will never fail you. And it's quite a simple device. Knives, etc. I always carry knives because you never know if you need to cut something free. Pliers, very useful. I mean, tools wise, I do carry tools on the boat. I carry a spare spark plug for the engine, a posi screwdriver, a spark plug tool. I carry a spare split pin for the prop, just in case I lose one or I have to take it off, put it back on, which I've done at sea. It's not the easiest job, but you can do it, certainly if you've chipped it or something's got around it like fishing line. Technology wise, I use an app called Windy to check the weather forecast. I used it from the paraglide and skydiving days to check the wind, etc. Right now I've probably got a steady 5 mile an hour wind running this way. But know your local area, know your tides, etc. I always check the weather forecast before I go out. I do have a Kestrel wind anemometer. It's not essential. It's good for measuring gusts, but what do you do with that? Just use your Mark 1 eyeball. If you think it's picking up a little bit and you're not comfortable, go back in. Certainly on these smaller crafts like I'm on now, doesn't get caught much by the wind, but the Warrior used to get pushed quite a lot on the wind because it had a cuddy, the cabin. But useful bit of kit, not essential, but I highly recommend the brand Kestrel. They're solid. If you have engine failure, the best thing to do is throw your anchor. This here is a 3.2 kilogram grapple anchor. I need to put another cable tie on it actually, with some chain and some nylon rope. As a general rule of thumb, I tend to drop my anchor 3 times the depth. Now you can get your depth various ways. I can see right here on the fish finder that I've got 27 foot of water, probably put 90 foot of anchor out. And people ask, what's the chain for in an anchor? The chain will keep the anchor sort of perpendicular to the seabed so that it doesn't drag very much. If the swell picks up, say your engine's cut out or whatever and you need to anchor, I always chuck a little bit more out because in sort of a strong tide, a bit of swell, it'll grip a little bit better with a little bit more. When I had a Warrior, I carried 2 anchors because there was an occasion where I had to cut my anchor away because I couldn't get it out. And then if I'd had engine failure on the way back from that fishing spot, I wouldn't have had another anchor to throw. But general rule of thumb, if your engine cuts out, chuck your anchor. It'll hold you where you are, then you can get some sort of help. If you are going to jump in off the water, by the way, use a boarding ladder. I use it off the bow, and then you can essentially climb yourself back into the boat. They're quite inexpensive, but if you've ever tried to climb back on a rib or a sib after a decent session in the water, it is not easy. I carry this here. This is actually part of the mooring rope that I used for the Warrior, but I cut too much. It's spliced at one end, so if I need to be towed or whatever, I've got a good length here. I do normally stow it a little bit tidier than this, I'm not gonna lie. Often get asked about the likes of flares. Do you carry flares on your sib? Not often, to be honest. If I'm pushing out a little bit, I do. You got the likes of these flares. Now these aren't actually my flares, they're off Macca's boat. These are more for smoke. You get ones that fire up higher. I'm not gonna go into it. You can either get inland flare system, coastal flare system. I have a coastal flare system, or you can get an offshore one. Most important thing to check is they're waterproof. A good brand that I've always liked are called Seago, and they come in plastic boxes. They've got an expiry date. If they're 3 years out of date, they're probably not going to work, so check that out as well. If you're going to do night ops, you need lights. Yeah, there's my anchor light there, so depending on if I'm doing an overnight mission or I'm just out of darkness, I'll put that up when I'm at anchor. I also have nav lights as well. Generally, they just clip on here. Red for port side, green for the starboard side. A good course to consider going on is an RYA Powerboat 2 course. It'll teach you navigation things such as if you're meeting another vessel head on, which way to go, if you see buoys in the water, nav lights. All the considerations and some things I see people messing up is they don't bring enough fuel, or they don't open the breather pipe in the fuel tank Again, check your fuel lines. I actually do carry a spare fuel line. Not on this boat today, but when I had the Warrior, I always had a spare fuel line and a second fuel tank, so I had a total separate fuel system. This outboard engine here has got a built-in fuel filter, and you can just pop the lid off and have a look. I always do that as like a pre-check before going on, make sure it's not full of water. You can fit separate fuel filter systems. I wouldn't on a SIB personally. I installed one on the Warrior, just peace of mind. And you can also carry a spare fuel tank depending on what your mission is. These boats here, by the way, they've got like a little drain deck, plug hole, whatever. You see it's quite dry in there. If you leave that up, your boat's going to fill up with water. A SIB isn't going to sink. You can get these little battery operated pumps that I've used in the past, or you could get a bilge pump installed. Bilge pump with an automatic setting and a battery source will mean if it gets to a certain level, it will pump it out the back. Not really required on a SIB. I have considered it, not really for while out at sea. For when I just leave it in the boat park, and rain always makes its way into the boat no matter how many covers I use. Fire extinguisher, I don't carry a fire extinguisher on the SIB. If this boat goes on fire, there's going to be nothing left that a fire extinguisher is going to help with. Yes, the outboard is probably the biggest risk, or the fuel. For those who don't know, it's actually the vapours that come off petrol that are flammable rather than the actual liquid itself. So be careful if you're topping it up in a ventilated area. The Warrior did have an extinguisher. It was a powder-based extinguisher. You can get all sorts now. There's these even like, I can't remember what they're called, they're like a shop one. If I was gonna put another one in the Warrior, I'd put a clean agent based extinguisher. They're quite good, like a vaporizing liquid. Certainly for anything fuel related, it'll smash that off pretty fast. Your VHF radio time. So, turns on. Now mine is always defaulted to channel 16. Channel 16, certainly here where I live in the UK, is a distress channel. If you need help, basically. Certainly there's coastal channels as well. If I want to speak to Douglas Harbour Master on channel 12, I will do so. Now, you should do a VHF course. I do recommend that. It's normally a 1 or 2 day course. You'll get the certification to use a VHF properly. However, personal opinion, I don't think you'd be chastised or get in any trouble for using one of these in a situation where you were in trouble. How does that actually work and how do you use a VHF? I'm not going to give you a full teach lesson on a VHF radio. I will go a brief overview. So you'll see most of them have a button on the side. It's called PTT. Press to talk, push to talk. You press it, then you transmit. You normally have to hold it in while you transmit. Like I say, this is a floating radio. You could do this while in the water. Keep the radio with you as well if you're doing that. So if you're in trouble, and we're not talking like your outboard's broken down and you need a bit of a hand back, you know, we're talking like your boat's on fire, it's sinking, or you're seriously injured. That's when you would generally use a Mayday message. And how would you do a Mayday message? You would say Mayday, 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 so 3 times, repeated by your vessel name. So my vessel's called Seawolf. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is Seawolf, Seawolf, Seawolf. I would tell them my location and the nature of my incident. My boat's on fire, I'm sinking, I've cut myself free diving, I've got a catastrophic bleed. Then you'd say number of people on board, followed by over. Wait for a response. If you don't get a response, repeat the message again, okay? Now that's different from a pan-pan. A pan-pan is maybe your engine has broke, there's no one around, you need a hand. So pan-pan, so the engine cut out, wouldn't start, or I know you lost drive, something happened, but it's not an emergency, but you do need help. You would do a pan-pan message and maybe other vessels in the area would come and help you. Worth noting is if you have your GPS location, because it just helps people out. Like I say, I'm not an instructor on radios. You say over if you want a response, and then you say out when you don't want a response. Plenty of really good tutorials online about this as well. Not an essential bit of kit, but a fish finder is quite useful for, like say, depth, etc. But one thing I do use a fish finder for is if I'm anchoring for a bit, might not be paying attention to my surroundings as much as I should have. We should do, but I could be camping overnight, getting my head down, or just fishing or whatever. You can set an anchor drag alarm, you can set the radius, and if you drag outside where you are GPS wise, an alarm will go off. A good app also on like an iPad or your phone is Navionics, tell you sort of the terrain that you're over as well. But just to finish off, I always do a few pre-flight, obviously it's not an aircraft, I always do a few pre-departure checks. Those departure checks are, I check the pressures of my wheels, because if you ever try to pull a SIB up on the slip when the wheels aren't done, it's an absolute nightmare. Quick check of the fuel filter, like I've said. Quick overview, dipstick check of the outboard. I'll check the seams, just a visual inspection around the boat. This boat here has 3 chambers, so that one, you see a little vent there, does the front. Then we have one underneath for the keel, one either side. Before I came out today, I checked them with a battery operated pump. You can use a hand pump if you want, but just a bit of peace of mind really. And if the keel's not fully inflated or you're on an air deck boat, this is an aluminium floor boat, you will have a bit of an issue. It'll sort of banana around a bit. It won't ride, you won't get on the plane. But yeah, always check those. Also, when the engine's running, there's something called a telltale, which is where water spits outside of your engine. If that's not working, your engine's likely to overheat, your impeller's going to just turn to mush. So knock it off, troubleshoot. Lastly, doesn't happen often here in the British Isles, but consider hydration. I've always got a drink on board. I do take electrolyte tablets, I've them out for a long time because you need to replace your sodium, salt levels, etc. depending on how hard you're working, if you're diving off the boat or whatever. And some other bits of kit that you could consider depending on what type of boating you're doing, whether you've got people on board that are off on like towables or whatever. You could get a throw line which you could throw to them in the event of emergency to bring them to you, and you can get ones with little flotation straps on as well. Used them in the past, quite good. And this is certainly not a need, but because I make videos, I've always got a drone with me, mostly because I'm looking for marine life. But if I'm scouting out a new beach or a new landing area, I tend to fire the drone in to have a little aerial view. Sometimes there's rocks you can't see. Not essential, but if you've got one, consider using it. Good bit of kit. Obviously get confident launching and landing it from a boat. That's it, small boat safety. How to stay safe on a small boat at sea. If there's anything I've forgotten or anything you want clarification of, like I say, bang it down below. And I'm going to go and enjoy this beautiful weather. It's 26 degrees here right now. British summertime. It doesn't get any better than this. See you on the next video, guys. Take it easy.